Welcome to another episode of Unleash Your Inner Badass. And here today, we have with us, besides Carrie and Kat, we have a special guest, Chris Duncan, all the way from the future, also known as Australia. That's what we usually call Australia. Those people live in the future,
What is
right?
tomorrow like, Chris?
Great. It's really good. You'll love it.
Besides it's the next day in Australia, it's also the next season. They're enjoying summer right now, right? And we have like minus 15 degrees Celsius here.
Holy crap.
It's freezing.
Yeah.
Oh,
Freezing.
So
yes.
Chris is very special person to us. We actually met him in Boise, Idaho in October, right? It was November, October,
November.
something like this.
November, yeah.
Beginning of November, right before Thanksgiving. And he gave us quite a presentation. Uh, it was like mind blowing. And I actually thought that Chris was like a very do, like what business, majority of businesses involve like this high energy, high strategy, right? Energy, what we call it the do energy. And then he dropped that I'm also a subconscious mind, super conscious mind company owner. And I'm like, what? So I was very like curious by that introduction, and Carrie gonna go more in details who Chris is, what he does, and what we're gonna be talking about it. I'm just gonna say one thing that super conscious mind thing grabbed my attention. I looked you up right away, what you do, because I realized the way you build your business is absolutely different than what's known about building business, what majority of people doing by building businesses. And that's actually what we do here in Unleash Your Inner Badass, because majority of the time you'll hear the strategies, what's working, right? What you need to do to build your business from ground up to 6, 7, 8 figures, but not that many people talk about what you need to be in order for that to happen. And a lot of times people think, well, once I have the things, once I achieve the things, then I will be that person. And in reality, it's usually completely opposite. So here in Unleash Your Inner Badass, we help people to understand all of these things so they can achieve their results a lot faster. So I'm gonna give it over to Carrie to introduce who you are, all incredible things that you do, and we'll get going.
Yes, and before I do that, if you're watching and it's live, maybe on one of our social media platforms, let us know that you're live. And if you're not live, maybe you're, listening to a replay, whatever that may be, give us a hashtag replay in the comments. We'd love to come back in and converse with you later. But I'm excited that I get to introduce you, Chris. So Chris has been changing the world using the Superconscious Recode since 2019. He has built multiple 8-figure companies, is the New York Times best-selling author of the book You're Not Broken. Kat, if you want to hold that up. He is the founder of conscious education company, the Magnetic Mind Method, and the Digital Marketing School, which he sold in early 2003. In 2019, Chris was featured in the movie We Rise Up alongside legends like Tony Robbins, the 14th Dalai Lama, and Richard Branson. In that same year, he launched the Rapid Recode, which went on to generate millions in profits and win his first ClickFunnels 2 Comma Club award. Since that first award, he now has a collection of ClickFunnels awards consisting of 3 2 Comma Club awards and a 2 Comma Club X award, a funnel generating 8 figures. Chris is well respected and renowned as a public speaker and coach, having instructed hundreds of thousands of people on the magnetic mind method and using the superconscious to turn their dreams into reality. His genius is consolidating the wisdom of neuroscience, alchemy, and creation technology into a simple, easy to use process that has impacted millions through the magnetic mind. It's possible to overcome all your limitations and magically manifest everything that you desire. So, with that,
Woo!
Chris, like, we're so excited to have you on our podcast today. Maybe, I mean, that's your bio, but maybe tell us a little bit about your story. Like, because we heard your story when we were in Boise in November, and you kind of come from that humble beginning, right? Like, you weren't always this badass that was getting all these awards and, sitting next to
Ask,
Tony
ask
Robbins
my
and having
wife.
drinks with Richard Branson. So
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about who you are, where you came from and how you got started.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks for having me on, and everyone listening. You're in the right place with all the beaches and this amazing energy that you guys bring to everything you do. So I highly recommend subscribing to everything, and it's really cool what you guys are up to. I really connect with it. It's been awesome talking to Ben and making sure you guys are getting your message out there even more. So I love what you guys do. So yeah, I mean, I'm from New Zealand, the country most likely to be left off maps, the bottom of the world, the southern part of New Zealand, and coming from that place, we're more socialist and capitalist. We don't understand about how to be a business owner, and so I was about 7 or 8 when I first realized that business owners had a different life. I only ever knew one person ever that owned a business, and they happened to be my best friend's dad. He happened to stop doing what he was doing and do a business. And I remember like sweeping the floor in his restaurant and helping him out. And then I noticed that over the next few years, their family and our family drifted apart. He went to a different school. They moved to a different suburb. He had so much more money. He had the best golf equipment and cricket bats and the best running shoes. He had everything that I wanted. And I realized really early that it was because of this one decision, and it changed my life. I remember I was about 5 years later, me and my best friend had drifted apart, and I went to I think it was like his 50th or something. And anyway, my friend's mother had bought a vintage Corvette as a birthday present. And what was stunning to me, one, that they could just go buy an extra car that they don't need. Two, that he didn't even know that this was being purchased. And so anyway, I made the decision back there that I wanted, and that having a business was a great thing to do. But I had no idea how to do it. There was no one around me that knew how to do business. So I ended up going to university and business school. And I found myself splashing around in business with an employee mindset, trying to do this new thing called business. And it led to a lot of oscillation. I'm a very determined person. So I built a multi-million-dollar company. And then in 2016, I lost it. It fell apart. I ended up in $1 million worth of debt. And then I built it back up to 2 million within 6 months and lost it again. And then I did it a third time, over 1 million back to zero. And so I had this
Wow.
up and down, up and down. Yeah. And I was trying to get myself back on my feet, and I ended up in a room with some self-made billionaires in Austin, Texas. And I'm pitching this idea, and actually it was a really good idea. It was to have a conscious media platform. And I was telling them how I was going to do it and everything, and that I just needed some funding to get back on my feet, that the other business hadn't worked. And I actually moved my whole family to the United States. So we were over there. And anyway, to make a long story short, a billionaire, one of the guys, self-made, pulls me aside. He says, "Chris, I love the idea." And I'm like, "Yes, I'm going to be saved." And he says, "But I'm not going to invest because of you." And I was like, "What?" He's like, "I'm not going to invest because of you." He's
Ouch.
like, yeah, it was a big, I mean, I'm at this point, like hanging on by a thread. And he said, "You are so addicted to your old identity that if I give you money, it will just get lost." He said, "You are addicted to being an employee. You're addicted to this small-minded employee mindset, living in New Zealand up against the world." He said, "You're addicted to it. And then what you're trying to do is fix that identity." And he looked at me and he said, "If I invest in this business, it's a great business, but if I invest, you're just going to find a way to lose it." He said, "You cannot plant seeds of scarcity and grow an abundance forest." He said, you got to be it to see it." He said, you're being a not it, trying to change to be it." He said, "You must be it." And I was kind of like, "What do you mean, like fake it to make it?" He's like, "No, you need to be it. And what you got to be is be super conscious." He says, "You're so entangled in your unconscious or subconscious way of being, your wounding, that you're not realizing your true power." You're not realizing anyway. So that conversation led me on this wild journey. I ended up connecting with some amazing people that coached me and mentored me one on one, and I applied the superconscious method to my life. And to put it quickly, the superconscious method is about learning your highest authentic power and letting go of who you've been. And so it was crazy. I literally have a life before 2016 and then after. Before 2016 is oscillation, frustration, everything else. After 2016, married the love of my life, become financially free, have a $10 million property portfolio, build two businesses to do $20 million each per year, sell one of them, write a couple books, do all these things, and with total ease and flow. Because what I realized is that building a business is more about your identity, because you don't need to know how to do everything. There's someone else that knows how to do it. You need to be able to hold the energy. You need to be able to make the right decisions and focus your team. And so, yeah, so life since then has been an absolute joy and an absolute blessing. And then in 2019, as you said, I started teaching it. And that brings me to here. So I sold my company last year, the digital marketing school, and ended up with all this freedom. And so I just had the mindset, conscious education, and I thought, what am I going to do? Got all this money, got all this time. What am I going to do? And so I've decided that who I really want to help the most is the entrepreneur who grew up in an employee household, that
Mm.
got raised in this thinking of hard work and be really smart and aim for a promotion and all the things that we got taught in that world, and to share what the identity of an entrepreneur is, and then how to let go of who they've been. So yeah, that brings me to Boise and teaching people about AI, which is not what I do, and meeting you amazing people.
I know.
Yeah.
Teaching people, he doesn't do AI, and yet so we'll get to AI here in a minute, but just like a little bomb that I'm going to drop that we'll pick up later. You made like $30,000 just on your
Yeah.
flight from
Yeah.
Australia to America.
Yeah.
So however long that flight is, you made 30 grand, all
Yeah.
AI.
Yeah. It was funny. So it was funny because I didn't know anything about what the event was. And so I get this text message from Steve, who runs the whole inner circle for ClickFunnels. And he says, "Oh, you got to do a talk." And so in my head, I've never been to any of the low level one. I've never been to any. So I have no idea. All I'm thinking is, I'm going to turn up and talk about super conscious stuff. And I can't talk about it in 10 minutes. Like I can't,
Yeah.
it's not enough. Like 10 minutes is just the intro. And so I'm thinking, what can I do that will, be impressive and that will actually add value? So I've been tinkering with AI a bit. So yeah, I built a whole business on a plane using nothing but AI, video, audio AI. I wrote a book. Anyway, we've done about $500,000 now off that
In 2
one
months.
presentation in 2 months. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been really cool. Yeah, so I mean, now AI is something else you get to use. But the thing is to be that person that can sit on the plane and make that. It's the difference is the identity. I'm not any
Right.
smarter than I was 7, 8 years ago. It's just now I have and I didn't spend much money. It wasn't that I went and spent up large.
Yeah.
It's all in here.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about the entrepreneurial identity that you had
Yeah,
mentioned before, cuz I mean a lot of the people, I mean probably 9 out of 10 that are listening or watching this interview right now, they're coming from an employee, right?
yeah,
They, just like you, they were
yeah,
employees starting out, and now they
yeah,
have this idea or this vision of a business that they want to grow. But I love what your the guy that you had talked to that had said you're addicted to your old identity.
yeah.
And we see that all the time, even with students that we teach. So let's
Yeah.
talk a little bit about that. The entrepreneurial identity there.
Yeah, thank you. There's actually quite a few different ways that an entrepreneur comes into the world, or has their main focus. And basically, the employee is none of them, or maybe one of them. So the first identity is a person that's product focused. They're able to come up with products. Their skill set is they can come up with product ideas, but usually they have more product ideas than dollars. The second person is a salesperson, and a salesperson is fantastic. They're a great part of the entrepreneur identity is the ability to sell. But if they don't have any other skill, if they can just sell, they end up selling everyone else's stuff and never actually build anything that they can sell themselves. The third is a promoter or a marketer. And you see them as influencers now. They have huge followings, huge lists, but
Yeah.
they can't sell, they have no product. The next is a systems-minded person. And a systems-minded person will build out standard operating procedures and systems and technology that can operate for them, but they never start anything. They're perfectionists. The next one is a leader. I see a lot of leaders that come out of high-paying jobs in corporate America, and they're a good leader. That's one part of the identity, is to be able to lead your team. Typically, they come in and they expect to be making six figures their first year because they're so used to it. The next is the investor, the one that actually knows where to put money and how to do it. And then the last one is how to put all that together, which I call the entrepreneur. And so the
Mm.
seventh,
Yeah.
the seventh one is where you're all of them. You can do a bit of product, you can do a bit of sales, a bit of marketing, you can build systems, you can lead a team, and you can invest. And that's the entrepreneur. And so now I can do all seven, right? When I started, I knew how to sell something. And so what I would do is I would sell, no systems, not enough products, blah, 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 and cause all this chaos. And so the difference is that an employee just has to master one thing. An entrepreneur has to learn how to master or manage seven different identities that creates one. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's actually very cool. When you were naming all of the seven, I was like, that sounds like me back in the day. That sounds like me too. And that sounds like what we're now.
Typically,
So
you
very
can
cool.
get you and a business partner can nearly cover all of them. And so, I say you either got to do it or delegate it, right? You got to master it or manage it. And so, normally, you can get you and a couple other business, and you can oversee all of them. But there's no way to avoid it, And so
Yeah.
that's if you want to have one entrepreneur, sometimes it shows up in two people, sometimes three people to create one head of a company. But you need to be able to hit all of those. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
I think between the 7 owners of Beach Boss, we are hitting them all multiple times.
Oh, awesome.
And maybe
You
that's
guys
why we've been able to grow so fast.
You guys have such a unique structure. I've never heard of it before, and it works for you, and I love that. But they see, like a lot of people, when they go to be an entrepreneur, right? They don't know how to be an investor. They don't know what to do with money, right? They don't
Yeah.
understand that you got to, you got to track your money. They don't know how to be an investor, or they don't know how to lead a team. So their teams always leave them, or they don't know how to make anyway. So that's that. Whereas an employee. Typically, an employee is somebody that's going to trade time for money. They get paid straight away. Okay, so this is very interesting. If you're an employee, you turn up for an hour, you get an hour, whatever it is. Very different with an entrepreneur. You turn up for an hour, you get nothing. Turn up for an hour, you get nothing. Turn up for an hour, you get nothing, nothing, nothing until you've built enough out, and then you get everything. And so there's a different way that you relate to time and money. But also with being an employee is the more that you learn about one thing, the more you'll get paid. As an entrepreneur, it's very, very different. If you learn too much about one thing, you're going to be, very, 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 you're going to struggle or have to have business partners. So it's like the difference between the two. We think that you kind of grow from an employee mindset into an entrepreneur, but they're so separate. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
They're not. If you might have 50 years of being a great employee, you got to throw that. You get to start day one with a new mindset. That shift is, in my opinion, the biggest reason why people don't leave that old world behind and actually become the entrepreneur.
Yeah. So how do we do that? So because I know that we're talking about your past, and then like I know that you talk about it in your book, and I'm gonna actually put that link here. So you have a book that you wrote. We've mentioned it before. You're Not Broken. And so how do we? Yes, and you can go and you can get it for free here.
Yeah, so we've got a free
Go
link
to
for
this
that.
link. Yeah, there's a free link for that book. Highly recommend that whoever's watching, listening, you go grab that. If you're watching on the podcast or whatever, we'll put it where you need to be able to grab it. But in this book, you talk about how to let go of your past and not get
Yeah,
addicted to problem solving and fixing yourself, right? Because you're not broken. So do you want to speak a
right.
little bit about that and how to kind of shed that old identity?
100%. And I really appreciate we diving into this because it's such an important thing. So, in my opinion, most of therapy, self help, and personal development stops working for people very, very fast. It works a little bit at the beginning, but it stops working. And here's why. Our consciousness, as it focuses on something, must always find an answer. It's why the universe is always expanding. So if we're told, and I got told this again and again, you need to think different, be different, you need to meditate more, you need to do affirmations, you need to chant, breath work, you need to be, I've been vegan, vegetarian, paleo, keto, like I've done it all, right? I've traveled around the world going to course after course after course. And what happened is every time I'd go there, I would get a little boost and then I'd come back to the same baseline. And the reason is because of the structure of our consciousness. If we focus, and this is what he told me, he said, Chris, you need to be it to see it. So what I was being was actually a problem solver. So what I would do is I would notice I didn't have what I want. Right? Notice I don't have what I want. Then I would assume there's something I must change about myself. Because I must be different. I must work harder, be more disciplined. I need to be better on camera. I need to be this. I need to be that. So I'd assume there's something to change about myself. I would then go find a way to change myself, fix myself, heal myself, therapy myself. I'd find a way to change. That thing would create dopamine. I would feel good. I would go do hypnosis or go talk to a therapist or get a new course or change business and would feel good for a little while. And it would solve the problem. But the absence of a problem caused there to be a void in my consciousness. So I would solve the problem and all of a sudden I end up in no man's land. My consciousness only knowing one thing. I need to find the next thing to fix about myself. And so instead of becoming an achiever in my end result, I became someone that was constantly just trying to find the next thing to change about myself. And so that's the problem-oriented structure. And it's why most people never get out of the trap. It's 30 years down and they're still listening to meditations and putting on their fridge magnet, I love money, money loves me, and, writing it around. And they still got the same, the exact same goals that they've had for 10 years. It's because they're in that structure. And so what I teach in the book is 5 steps to live in the superconscious structure. And so the first thing is to understand is we need to know how it is in our reality. Most of us are lazy creators. So we just look to our past and notice how it is. We go, okay, well, look, this is how it is in reality based on my past. But actually, the past doesn't exist and the future doesn't exist. So the first thing is to live from a future-oriented perspective, not a past. So the first thing we do, and that's step number 1 in the book, is to choose your end result. Actually define the life that you want. Get so clear on it. I got a little saying is that we're basically creative beings, spiritual beings, have a human experience for 85 to 120 years. What makes a good experience of those 85 to 120 years is how we feel about it. It doesn't matter what you do, it's how you feel about it. You can have $1 million, you can have no money, 10 million. It matters how you feel about it. And there's certain things that you want to have and that allow you to feel a certain way. So you get clear on that. The second thing is to actually teach your subconscious that that's what you want. You do that through neuro-emotional meditation by actually becoming it and being connected with it. We do it every single morning in our programs. You connect with it. The third step is to notice what the present reality is. And we've got a little code, by the way, is to break the word present up to present. How you're experiencing the moment is present. You're either presending the information from the future, or you're presending the information from the past. Either way, they're invisible. So you presend how you should be in the moment, and you live in worship of a future you. You honor a future you. And now the next step is that we let go of anything else, people, emotions, environment, behaviors, toxic memories. We let go of all of it. And what's interesting is that if we are in a focused structure, we can simply let go of this because we've got certainty of how we need to be. And that is what we teach with Recode, is how to connect to the highest part of your mind and forget. So here's what's really fun. I want everyone listening to hear this is if you can forget where you put your keys last week, if you can forget what you did a month ago, if you can be annoyed at someone, sit down for a coffee and then forgive them because you actually got it wrong. They didn't say that. If you can do that, you have in your system a doorway that allows you to let go. You're not broken. You can let it go. There is no point carrying around a wound from age 5 or 6 or 7 because you stood in front of church and everyone laughed at you. So now you're shy. There's no point carrying around. That happened. So did a lot of other things that you don't remember. There's no point trying to fix them. There's no point trying to heal them. They happened. I once had a mentor, it's so funny, he said, Chris, it's never too late to have a happy childhood. And I was like, it kind of is. What he means, it's what he's trying to say is it's never too late to let it go, right? But so many people, they don't want to let it go because that might happen again, you know.
Mhm.
If you are wanting to be a different you, you cannot be that you and take everything there. That they don't equal. So anyway, so step one is get into the end result that you want. Two, emotionally connect. Three, notice where you are in comparison with that. Live in that focus structure. Four, let go of who you've been. And then five, take action in alignment with that. So I've got one question if every listener writes this down, which is what would the person I'm becoming do right now? If you
Mm.
ask that question, what would the person I'm becoming do right now? You take that action, you now live in that structure. And that's the key is you live in that. And that is actually the key that opens what we call the wizard's gate in the magnetic mind that pulls in your future. And when we've seen people do this, we've had one lady, this is crazy. She just messaged me a couple months ago. When she first started my program, she was on the verge of bankruptcy. She just sold her company for 100 million. We had another lady, she started a
Wow.
space school. She started a freaking space school to take people to space. We've had so many people have tumors and diabetes and cancer, just so much because they live in a new identity. They let go of the old patterns. Families come back together, you know. So many people are limiting themselves based on a random occurrence in the past. So that's what we teach in the book. And yeah, everyone listening, you can get the book for free. So I'm giving it the
Yeah.
whole for free. So that's a physical book.
Yes, but now we want to shift because you actually have written a new book, right? Like, I mean, yes, this new one it's free and it's great. Or this old one's free and it's great. However, you have, kind of poured your heart and soul into
A
a
new
new
book.
book.
I
A
did.
new book. and and honestly, like if you're like listening or you're watching, like you need both. I mean, it starts with you're not broken, and
Yeah,
then it's like, okay, we go from you're not broken to how do we, I guess, what's the way to say it? I guess unleash your super conscious, right? Like,
that's
or
right.
tap into your super conscious. So
Right.
kind of tell us a little bit about your new book, what
Yes.
they can expect from it and why they need it.
Yes. Well, I'm so glad you asked because the new book is all about truly integrating your shadow. And so there are nine orientations, nine shadows, but on the other side of our shadow is our true superconscious superpower, like where we really shine. Most people are living out a shadow. It's like there's a fire behind them of this raging inferno of passion and heart and genius, and they're living out the shadow on the cave wall. And they think that that's them, but if they actually turned around and faced the heat of what they really are, it's incredible. So that's what the superconscious path is all about, is realizing that when you're not living from fear and you're not living out your unconscious wound, you get this level of genius that truthfully most people never allow themselves to experience. And so it's an incredible book. It's for people who are really ready to go, you know what, I want to see myself giving everything that I can give to this lifetime. And that was the big difference to me. Once I got out of the problem structure, which is what I teach in the You're Not Broken, then it was okay, cool. So I'm making great money. Cool. I had a digital marketing school. That's cool. But it wasn't my purpose. When I really allowed myself to face my biggest fear, which was being judged by everyone, I wrote the book You're Not Broken and did the super conscious work. And it was so funny. My friends, they screenshotted Chris Duncan super con. They got rid of the end of conscious, like my rug, like they just gave it to me. But because I died to the agenda of what everyone else thought, that business is probably the biggest personal. Oh, it's up there. It's right. I mean, there's not many companies that are doing multiple eight figures teaching consciousness. It's so in that industry, it's a bit of a unicorn.
Yeah.
And it
Well,
was
and you just said something too that I found really profound. You said, this is for the people who are willing to let themselves get there,
right,
right? Because how many people we say, yes, we want this. But like you had said before, we're addicted to who
right,
we are and we're not willing to shed or let go or whatever that may be. And subconsciously, most people are terrified, right?
right.
To become their future selves that they need to be to get what they want. So
Yeah.
what do you say to those people, the people that like they say they want it but their actions don't line up with what they say they want.
Yeah. I just love them. I want to send them love
Mhm.
because it's totally okay to admit most people are not up for completely sticking their head and shoulders out and above the pack and leading the world forward.
Mhm.
That's just how it is. They're not actually for it. But if someone's listening to this and they're like, no, actually, like that's what I'm here to do, they have to be ready to be courageous enough to let go of every way they've been. And unfortunately, the biggest thing is people are so scared to let go of old relationships. That's the biggest
Mhm.
thing. They just won't let go of other people that won't let them and recreate a new reality over here. They're so worried that they won't find new friends or they won't find a new partner or they won't find a new group. They won't do it. So what I'd say to anybody is the truth about yourself.
Mhm.
If you're here to play a big game or if truthfully you're not up for it. You're not up for taking on because I tell you this, there's an easy and lazy way to not go for it. And it's easy and lazy and it's safe and your future will be the exact same as your past. It's just probably not anyone listening to this show. If they're listening to this show, it's like you have to be willing and courageous. There's 4 C's of doing it. Number one, you got to go get complete clarity. Number two, you got to get committed. You got to be committed all in. Like you have to be all in committed and actually ask yourself, am I really committed for this end result or am I trying to do something else? The third, once you're committed, then you got to be courageous enough to let go of everything and just live to a future. And then the last thing that comes up is capability. So I'll just do this real quick with you two. If you just think about a dilemma in your life, you don't have to tell me, right? It could be completely private in your mind. Think about a dilemma, something that's going on. Maybe it's financial, maybe it's with a relationship, maybe it's with a kid, whatever, right? Just some dilemma, something that's not quite right. And then just really quickly, just close your eyes. And as you do, just imagine that you have no past. Just imagine right now that you have no past, like it all melted away, like a door closed on your past, and then we hung a mirror on that door and it's only shining to the future. So just imagine you have no past, and now notice how you are with that same dilemma without a past. And then, your eyes, just notice how it's different. Fill me in. Was it different or what?
It
Well,
was.
absolutely.
It was
It
kind of
is different.
easy and like, oh,
Mhm.
like lighter. Like I don't have to drag all of that with me and
Yeah.
worry. And I'm like, I'm just gonna step into that same problem, but in the
Mhm.
future. It feels a lot lighter and a lot more exciting, even like bring it on.
Yeah.
I want to
Yeah.
share something if you guys don't mind. So I'm reading currently your first book, You're Not Broken. I'm about 3 quarters in. And somewhere, probably in the first quarter, I came to 6 lines. That to me, if that was the only 6, maybe 7 sentences that I read, that would make a huge difference for me when I was just starting my super conscious journey. Right? We all have that experience and we're all in our own journey. So I want to read those 6 or 7 sentences that were total aha moment for me. And hopefully it will be the same for people who are listening to us. So if you allow failure, you will succeed more. To me, it was like, dang, because there is a quote: if you if you give yourself permission to fail, you give yourself permission to fly. So that's like same thing here, right? It gives you like, you want to take a breath, and it was like, let's go fail, right? Let's get excited about failure. The next one is, if you're not worried about being broke, you can finally be rich. It's like, how many people start this entrepreneurial journey because they're so tired of being broke and they don't make decisions they need to make because they're afraid to be broke, to get broke, right? Stop worrying about that. Like, just go for it. If you are allowed to feel overwhelmed, you will break through. This is another one. Like, boom, like aha moment of, some people it takes 20 years to realize that. If you're okay with being single, you can find the love you desire. if you can let go of control, you'll find real safety. For me, it's probably, I'm still working on letting go of control. I have a 16-year-old who's learning how to drive, and I have to be sitting next to him. So I'm learning a lot of letting go of control right now, right? And the last one, if you're allowed to disappoint your family, you can find yourself. So to me, this 6 sentences is so close to my heart and my journey. And I can see, myself, I already kind of went through all of these things that I had to deal on my own. But if someone told me that, right, 20 years ago, 5 years ago, my journey will be so much more enjoyable and so more exciting. But it's kind of like we have to find the solutions on our own. And I just hope that people who are watching us, who will grab your first book or your second book, will have the same experience that I had.
So
Wow.
powerful.
Good for you.
So powerful.
Yeah, good for you.
So to get Chris's new book, the Superconscious Path book, you're going to go to www.go.magneticmind.com.au/superconscious path book. Kind of a mouthful, but it's here on the screen for those that are watching on social media. Get your hands on it. Grab your free copy of You're Not Broken. That was it. Those sentences came from You're Not Broken, right,
Yeah.
Kat? That
Yes.
you
Yeah.
just read? Yes. So powerful. And then after you do that, don't forget to go and grab Superconscious Path book as well, because that's just the even deeper dive into you completely unleashing or tapping into your own superconscious to get you where you want to be, right? Your future self, where you see yourself years from now. So, Chris, is there anything that we didn't ask you today or anything else that you'd like to share that maybe we didn't get to?
Wow. I mean, we could talk for hours. I love your energy. I love
We
your
could.
enthusiasm. I mean, I love what that summary from Kat. It was phenomenal. Just helping people truly realize, like you just stay focused on where you're going. There's going to be failure. There's going to be upset people, but if you try to solve all of that, you get out of your end result. So, you know, no, I think this is so much fun to come here and chat to this audience. And if they want to grab a book or check out my website or YouTube or whatever, they're going to get a heck of a lot more information. I guess I just want to say,
Yeah.
if they're watching this, they're in the right place with you. With what you guys are doing, it's incredible. And every interaction I've had with you guys and Ben, you really just you care a lot about your audience and what you're doing. So I'd recommend to everyone is get books like mine, but you've got some great mentors here. So stick with one, stick with one, and thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you so
Thank you
much for
for being
being
here.
here. For those that were live, let us know what your biggest takeaway was. Let us know if you've grabbed his book because we want to know if you did.
We
Um,
actually
and
quoted your book probably 3 or 4 times on our other episodes.
we have.
So you're already famous here.
Yep. So with that, Chris, thank you so much for your time today, and thank you so much for coming and giving so freely to our audience. And we'll plan on seeing everybody else on our next episode next week.
Bye,
Bye.
guys.